welcome back to another episode of the Perfectly Imperfect podcast. I'm here with a very, very special guest, Katharina. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? You can share, where people can find you and, what you post about and your presence on social media and a little anything about yourself you want to share.
Of course. My name is Katharina. I am 22 years old and I currently live in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I say currently because I am obsessed with traveling. I guess that's how most people have found me on social media. And I also have a background history with recovering from an eating disorder. And yeah, just general, I post a lot about that, of course, and share all the highs and lows in my life. And yeah, I think that's mainly it.
Oh, that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to pull up our little list of questions, but I don't usually have like a way I start every episode, but with my guests, I love to go through a little like rosebud thorn moment. So the rose is something positive in your life. The thorn is maybe something that you're working on that's a little harder. And then the bud is something that like you're growing and learning and kind of developing through.
Exactly. So if I start with the rose, I think that's the best. What makes me happy in the moment is It may sound a bit weird, but acknowledging the success I'm currently experiencing, because that is just it with us in general, like both being the person that we are and humans and all that stuff. We tend to be really bad at celebrating even the smallest success in life. And I'm currently at a moment in which all the small things in my daily life and routines just add up into a great moment and period of time right now. So I really just try to stay present, because right now I have so many great projects going on and I have some really cool travels coming up. And the moment that I'm in right now, I just really need to remember to appreciate it and not just let it fly by too fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I always tend to be like the next project and the next thing that's coming up. And right now I'm actually doing pretty good, both health-wise and my family, of course, and my living situation and all the projects that I've got coming up. So yeah, actually just really happy with the situation that I'm in right now.
So amazing to hear. That's so good.
Yeah, should we move on to what I'm working on actually? Yeah. Because I think that kind of correlates to what I just said. Working on not being too hard on myself in these moments, because as mentioned, I'm always looking forward to the next thing and thinking that what I've done could potentially have been better, or what can I do next to make it better? Whether that would be posting a YouTube video that could have gone better, or set myself new goals. And instead of just keep on outdoing myself all the time, whether that would be running a longer distance next week that I just did this week, just working on not being too hard on myself. Actually, I think that's a consistent goal of mine, which has been like this for many years. But just always working on that. Actually, keep reminding myself of that too.
It's so important,
I think. Yeah. So and the hard thing recently would be, it sounds weird, but I actually don't really have something that I can point out that's hard for me in these days.
Okay.
But I guess that's kind of a good thing, and I don't need to try and make something up. Recently I'm just I'm actually doing really good. Yeah.
That's so wonderful to hear. I feel that, and definitely the first couple months of this year of 2024 were kind of rough for me. I was very much transitioning, moving to New York. So I feel you in that March is feeling pretty positive so far, and I've gotten my own apartment. I've changed jobs. I'm settled.
Getting settled.
Yeah, getting settled.
That is really good.
And just feeling good, and like recovery wise, feeling strong, feeling positive. I guess for me, the only thing I'm kind of working on is like just the beating myself up over kind of productivity wise, like similar to what you were like, not feeling like I'm doing enough or achieving enough. And as I
always do better and this and that and more. And
you can always do more, but what you do is enough. And I think we just have to remind ourselves that. And I need to work on that as well. So some nights and some days I get really negative about that. So that's something I'm working on. And something more negative, I'd say, is just kind of not feeling like I'm doing enough. And especially living in a city like New York, I've definitely experienced the hustle culture, and everyone's always moving around so fast, and yeah, it can just get. But overall, like you, feeling good. I love that for us.
Like we need to appreciate it, or well, just acknowledge it for now, and try to stay on this path as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's okay if something comes up and we do start feeling more, unsettled or sad about something, but that's just life. But when we're good, kind of appreciate it and be in the moment with that. That's something I'm always working on. So I guess moving on to my next question, you mentioned a little bit about your recovery journey in your past, but share as much or as little as you feel comfortable about that. I know you shared a lot on your YouTube platform as well. You could summarize, or like, how did you decide to start recovery, and what helped you kind of get to the place that you are now?
To sum it up briefly, because it has been going on in my life since I was 12 years old. So that, makes the 10-year mark now. That's a very long time. When I was 12 years old, I guess it was kind of when I first got into the whole spirit, and the bad spirit, of course, and got sucked into the social media platform. By then, when all the stuff about weight loss and diet tips and just a very, very toxic social media culture back then, I got swirled back into. And that was when I first got ill, and I ended up in the hospital first. And then ever since I technically was recovered, it only took me half a year, was put on a strict meal plan and just very strict hospitalization as being a minor, of course. And ever since then, I was on and off, out and in recovery, and just gaining weight, losing weight. And then it got really bad again once COVID outbreak hit. I think for a lot of people, well, for everyone, COVID had different outcomes, of course. And for me, it did the worst. I got stuck back into my old mind, and I got very deep back into my eating disorder. And it became the new obsession for me, because with the whole world being shut down and nothing else I could do was just spending time with myself, going back into old habits that got really destructive. And I was also at a very vulnerable point in my life in high school at the time. I wasn't feeling my best. So it was just a clash of a lot of things that just ended up in me becoming really, really ill. I got back into hospitalization, and I was in hospital for a couple of years. I wasn't really staying in the hospital like that, but I was having daily, monthly, weekly checkups and weigh-ins and all of that stuff that comes with recovery, which some people may know, some of you who are listening. But then after that many years and the world started to open up a bit again, I think that kind of inspired me to do something for myself as well. That this life that I've been living for so many years, being stuck with an illness and being limited and couldn't do anything at all than just focusing on food and exercise and all of the stuff that really comes with being affected by anorexia in my case, because there are multiple eating disorders. I think I just reached a point in which I thought to myself, which is worse, being stuck in this restricted life or committing to trying something new and see where I could potentially end up being in a couple of years' time. So after that many years of hospitalization in and out and just being stuck in this disordered mindset, it sounds weird and many people don't believe me when I say it like that, but one morning I just woke up and told myself I can't do this anymore. I am so drained and exhausted and tired from being obsessed with food and exercise. And I made the decision to try and change, because making the decision to commit to recovery and then actually starting recovery, those two things are so far apart. And but making the decision itself is a huge step and something that should be acknowledged. But then actually doing it and starting to eat and watching your body grow and putting on weight and facing all your fears, those two things are so far apart. But that is when the recovery journey begins, when you make that decision. And I just made the decision one day to try and challenge myself. And it took a long time, and it has been the toughest, but also the best part of my life, because I have proven to be able to rescue my own life, because I left the hospital and I did not get any help from when I left hospital in I think I was 19 years old. So it's been 2 years and a bit by myself, solely trying to rescue my own life. And it just proved to me that I have the strength and willpower to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just really happy that I chose to, even though some people may argue that it's better to get help professionally, and it can be, but it's just when your resources are limited, and financial options also do play a huge role in that. You just got to work with what you got. And that's what I did.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And
of course, I'm always like very open to talk about it. It's not really. Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of what you experienced. I think my timeline is a little bit shorter. I've kind of struggled with body and disordered eating a lot of my life, honestly, probably since similar age, 10, 12. Just once I became aware of my body, like, the insecurities.
Those are also, your vulnerable years once you start the early teens. Yeah.
And especially I grew up in a dance studio. I danced ballet and point like 15 years. So I just was surrounded by people commenting on my body, like praising my body, judging my body. And, my eating disorder did later develop into anorexia as well. But I think it just started with like a body image, body dysmorphic disorder. And kind of, I really was just so disconnected from my body. And then once I went to college and I wasn't, my mom sometimes would cook at home. So it's just kind of, that's what we ate. But once I went to college, it was all on me. And that independence went in the negative route of me not necessarily trying to take care of myself, but focusing more on how I can like make myself look the best way and, manipulate my body into whatever way my disordered brain was telling me.
I resonate with that 100%. Yeah.
Beginning of college, just before COVID, I would say like that's when I just was engaging in such unhealthy behaviors and restrictive eating and all of that. And then similar to you, I really resonate as well. Like for COVID, for some people was really healing and it enabled them to themselves and grow. But for me, it just allowed me to fully obsess and focus solely on my eating disorder. And it just spiraled downward and downward. So I kind of got to my lowest place there. And again, I also relate to waking up one morning or just having that kind of click moment in your brain and being like, I can't live this way anymore. Like I felt so restricted. I was never present. I couldn't enjoy food with people. I couldn't enjoy food by myself. I couldn't, Thanksgiving and Christmas were horrible. And I was just like,
that was the worst times. Every holiday season was just so much fear related to that.
Yeah. And I was like, where is the 5-year-old, 6-year-old Jenny who loved these times of years? And it made me so emotional and sad that I didn't know how I was ever going to get back to that place. So I did have a therapist for the first kind of part of my recovery. And so I remember coming off of one call with my therapist and, it was just such a rough session and I was crying and, she was really trying to just help me reframe my mindsets through it and all of that. And after that, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like I shut my laptop and because it was a video therapy session and, and I just was like, I need to do something about this. Like I can't continue living this way. And so, that is the first step. That really is the biggest first. Committing, even if like, you don't know what the next step after that is because recovery is just kind of jumping into the unknown of not knowing what you need to do. But all you know is that you can't live the way you have been living. So you're just maneuvering, discovering a whole new life that's so scary and unknown for you. But, making the decision to commit to that, like you said, is the amazing first step. And then, taking steps after that is hard, but you've already made the hardest decision already.
Exactly. And it's all the small steps you do afterwards that add up to the point you reach in the end, I'd say. Because there's no certain way to do recovery because it's different to everyone, which I'm sure that a lot of people still need to know that there's no way that works for everyone the same. We're all different. And it's all the small wins every single day that add up into the point that you reach and you can call yourself recovered at some point.
Right. Oh, totally. And I think that's something I definitely took a long time to recognize. I was frustrated that things took me so long. I was frustrated that things stayed really hard for me. And, while social media and Instagram, like there can be a lot of positivity, like, and, people advocating for recovery and talking about their recovery, sometimes it can be an easy comparison trap. And I definitely caught myself being like, oh, well, this person recovered so fast, like they're not afraid of this anymore. Or
Yeah,
sometimes,
that's true. But but at the same time, I get some people sometimes shout at me in the comments for recovering too fast.
no,
When
but
it's so weird because it's like, yeah, some people complain if you recover too fast, you don't recover real, but if you recover too slow, you're not in actual recovery. And it's just it with social media because no one knows the entire story, and it's just, yeah, something you just gotta ignore if you get those comments. But it can be frustrating. It really can be,
really,
because then you don't know what to do really.
exactly. But it all just goes to show that in recovery journeys, like you said, it's so personal to you, and
Yeah,
the
absolutely
only
is. Yeah.
way to find how recovery will work for you is to look inward and think about what feels good to you. What do you need to challenge? Not what does the next person who's in recovery need to challenge? Like, what do you need to challenge? What do you need to work on? Because there were things in my recovery that were really prominent and really hard for me to get over. But maybe I talked to my friend who maybe dealt with binge eating disorder or a different eating disorder, and they had very different challenges. So sometimes, like, we try to connect and talk about it, but in the end, we really couldn't necessarily help each other because we're both struggling with different things. And so I learned, okay, I need to just tune into myself, and I can't really
Exactly.
can't compare my journey to.
You need to work out pretty fast that comparison is just not possible in any way. It's not really in life, but especially not in recovery, because everyone is so, you are your own person. It is so individual, both also in terms of fear foods, restrictions, and the amount of time it takes for you to recover. And yeah, just comparison is a thief of joy in many ways, and it's not something that should be incorporated in recovery in any way at all.
In recovery and outside recovery, in life as well, in your work and
Yeah,
friends, like in everything.
actually, yeah.
So moving on to my next question, what has been your motivating factors to heal and prioritize your own health and your happiness kind of over your past? I know you kind of touched upon this,
Yeah. But it's kind of fun because when I say this, a lot of people are like, is that your first priority? But I can't wait to be a mom one day, to have kids and start a family. And it's like, it's not the thing you'd expect to hear from most people in recovery, but it has been a concerning thing for me in so many years, that not being able to start a family at one point, because with eating disorders and anorexia and all of that, it is, of course, a thing that you need to remind yourself of, that you're putting your health at such risk that you may not be able to become a parent one day. And for me, it has been my number one concern for so many years, not having my period and being terrified of what the future may look like in that way. So yeah, becoming a mom and starting a family has been and still is my number one priority in order to keep myself healthy. And it's something that I still remind myself every day. So it's kind of like a different thing to most people. But again, we don't compare in that way. Everyone is doing their own thing, of course. But for me, it's becoming a parent. And then also something that was probably one of the greatest motivating factors in my daily life is when I was at my worst, and not even just at my worst, but when I was very ill. I was so tired with all the comments from everyone, the looks, the stares. Some people even shouted at me on the streets, both in Denmark and when I was traveling, and just all the comments and opinions you get from everyone on your appearance. And it is by all means not okay at any point, but especially when you are in recovery and you're very ill because of your eating disorder and your mind is just really disordered. It's so toxic, and so like you get torn down a lot with those comments. And yeah, the looks I got everywhere and opinions from people, I was just wishing for them to go away and wishing for it to stop. And that also just made me realize in the end that I needed to do something about it myself. So that was really motivating for me to get rid of that when I was going to gain weight, essentially.
Right. Yeah. And as much as it is about like you recovering as well, and like, gaining weight and gaining physical strength, but it's also just gaining that mental strength that those comments don't affect you anymore. I know for me, like I was so triggered by even the slightest comment on how much I was eating, what I was eating, how much
exactly.
like how my clothes fit, and there's another reason holidays were hard was just like gathering as a family. Some people who aren't in your life day to day, they see you 6 months later and they're like, oh, you lost weight, or
I remember that.
and it's just like, please don't say anything. And so
just leave it. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I wanted to get to a place where, one, I felt confident in my body and my mind, so that a comment like that wouldn't, send me into a spiral. Because now, obviously, like if someone says something, it's not nice, but it's not going to send me into a downward spiral.
Yeah, I feel the same.
So, but I also love your comment about like wanting to be a mom. I think that's so definitely thoughts of that myself. Like, no way I want to be a mom anytime soon. But just
no, me neither. I just want to put that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. But just the idea that like when I was stuck in my eating disorder, thinking about being a mother with these disordered thoughts, it's like, well, that's just a one-way ticket to messing up my potential future daughter and future child. And I just didn't want to be in that position. I want to be that grandma that bakes cookies and is super positive about herself and her body and food. And that's all.
You do it for your future, for many years, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead. That's also why.
Yeah. And I think for me as well, a big motivating factor was, I met my boyfriend before my recovery. So he's kind of seen me through all the stages, and just wanting to show up for him and be 100% present for him, but also my family. And, they noticed the shift in me and I became a different person. And I missed and grieved over that girl that was so, could join in with everything with my family, could go on trips and really be present and enjoy everything. And, for a while, I just couldn't be that person anymore due to the eating disorder. So, because doing things as a family is so important. And I just wanted to be able to actually be present and be there with them. So
without worrying.
Exactly.
Of course. And overthinking everything and plan ahead and just having your life centered towards food and restrictions instead.
So my next question for you is about your marathon training journey. And I've seen you've been sharing a lot about that on your YouTube. I'm loving, following you along with that. Do you want to talk a little briefly about your journey with that and kind of how you're keeping in mind just while you're going through such like an intensive physical training?
How I really got into the marathon, because I have been wanting to run a marathon for so many years. My dad, he is a so-called marathoner. He's actually ran a couple of times in New York, and it's a dream of mine to do that as well. But with my eating disorder and my mental health, and physical health, of course, I was nowhere near able to even being able or should go out on any runs at all. But after committing to recovery and having reached a physical healthy point and mentally healthy point, and then I just started to pick up my running again, because for me, running is what I enjoy the most. And then I felt that I was at a right place and time for me to train for my first marathon, and keeping my recovery in mind as well for that, because I was a bit scared when I first announced it on social media, because I know that a lot of my audience, they are here because they have watched me since I started sharing my recovery. But as mentioned earlier, when I started sharing my recovery, it has been going on for many years before that. That was just first when I started to make it public on social media. But I was so scared when I first announced that I was going to run a marathon. And of course, I did get a lot of comments from people saying that it wasn't me who was doing it. It was just for my eating disorder. It was not really for the right reasons. But with that said, I have gained so much positivity from people in general. And also when I started to actually share the videos in which I show my training, my full days of eating, and just giving a much wider and broader perspective on what this training is actually all about. But to keep it short, it's just a childhood dream of mine, being able to run a marathon a healthy way and a good way, and being able to complete it feeling proud of myself and doing it for the right reasons, most importantly. And also something about making my dad proud, I'd say. um, yeah, but keeping my recovery in mind, that all the progress that I've made and the point that I am today, I'm so proud of myself for doing that and having gained so much weight and got my period back and just reached a healthy body and mind. I do not want to put that at risk at any point. So if I feel the slightest as if I'm going out running for the wrong reasons, I'm going to quit it. But I've just found myself at a really healthy and happy balance right now, in which I enjoy this training. I love it. And I love to eat, of course, and I eat a lot during these running times. And I'm feeling good about it. And as long as I can see that it's for myself and for the right reasons, I just keep on going. And yeah, it's been really, really fun so far, honestly. And it's just nice to have a project that is not centered towards recovery, to be honest, and sharing something that I really, really enjoy to do, and getting all the positive feedback. Of course, there's negative in between, but mostly positive, heavily positive. And the engagement from people also, who watch my videos, and some girls as well who are in recovery and wishing to do the same thing one day and being inspirational in that way. It's just really amazing, and I'm having so much fun doing it, which is the most important, of course.
I love that. And I love what you said about it being something kind of to take you out of the recovery, and not discarding your recovery, because it's obviously
exactly. Yeah.
something for you to build on that kind of excites you outside of topics.
Yeah.
I think, I'm on this similar journey trying to figure that out, and like what day-to-day activities, what projects can I bring into my life. And you've honestly inspired me with YouTube. So I want to try to get more present.
It's so much fun. So much fun. It's documenting your life essentially. And one day you look back at it and just, be glad you did it. It's a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, I love it. I definitely
and also, I need to mention, because with all the exercise and stuff, I know that it's really, really sensitive to a lot of people in recovery. And I can feel a huge difference from when I run now, as if I were to go on a run 2 years ago. It would have been exhausting for me, and I would do it for the wrong reasons and just push myself to do as much as possible, and really just, it would not be enjoyable at all. It would be the quite opposite. And now it's what I enjoy, like generally enjoy and feel good about, and makes me feel good. And it's just important to be able to distinguish between those two different feelings. It really is. And the reasons for running and exercising and all that stuff.
Right, exactly. Do you ever have moments now like that you notice might be slipping back into a little bit, or just if you're having a harder day? Like, how do you kind of through those moments?
Definitely. I do have days in which I need to remind myself that even though I have a rest day, I still need to eat and fuel myself properly. I do need to eat more than I think I need to eat. And whenever I have the slightest signal of hunger, I need to honor it. Whereas in the past, I would have maybe just thought to myself, I'll wait till lunch, dinner, whatever. But especially during this training, I want to stay healthy and stay sane, essentially, and not spiral back down. Yeah. So just honoring every single signal I feel from my body. And as I've talked about in my videos, I do follow a training plan, but I adjust and adapt it to suit my own life and my day to day. If I have a 10K run I need to do, but I don't feel like running on that day, I'll postpone it and do it another day. So it's really just being flexible and not restrictive at all.
That's amazing. And I feel like that's, the most sustainable, maintainable approach to these types of things. And I've
absolutely
the exact same thing. I'm not running a marathon, but I'm moving my body in different ways. And I'm starting to pick up strength training, and, just really looking at it as a way to feel good and feel strong, and not for the aesthetics of how to change my body in a certain way. Yeah. And the second slipping back into that, or if I'm having a harder body image day, sometimes moving my body does feel better, but then there's definitely moments where it won't help me at all, and it'll just make me feel worse in the end. So it's kind of recognizing when your body needs certain things, when it needs food, when it needs rest, when it needs movement. So it's really just kind of building that relationship with yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
So moving on to the next question, I guess branching off of what we've been talking about with your YouTube, what initially inspired you to kind of post on YouTube and social media about your recovery? But I know you mentioned you'd been posting travel stuff for a while as well.
Yeah. I think, first of all, travel stuff is just because I genuinely enjoyed it so much, and it's a part of my life that gives me so much happiness. And yeah, I'm just a very adventurous and outgoing person that loves to explore new things and places, and just I'm very curious, I'd say. I just think it's fun to make those type of videos to look back at as well. But especially with my recovery, I feel that I want to be the kind of person that I was missing myself in my own recovery, and being able to, open up about my life that I many years ago didn't think would make any difference to anyone by sharing. Getting the feedback from people telling me that even though I share the smallest parts of my life that are just individual moments from many, many years, having told that this is so helpful for many people, and receiving messages from girls and whoever telling me that I am the reason that they chose recovery or wanting to eat today, is just so rewarding that sharing something for me that seems so easy to talk about is giving so much to other people. That is just, it's so rewarding for me. And of course, that is what leads me to wanting to share more, because of the feedback that I was getting. And I think it's just also something about being open on social media about weaknesses, and opening up about struggles, and both with eating disorders and mental health, and just in general pointing out the things that are not perfect, and being able to touch on some more sensitive topics that a lot of people don't talk about. So for various reasons in that way.
Yeah, I love that. I relate to just kind of receiving the feedback and the positive feedback, and that serving as motivation to keep going. I recently, through like, I don't know, 6 months before this, a period of just not feeling good in myself and not necessarily feeling motivated to post on social media very much. And I sometimes do look back on that, and the negative thoughts are like, oh, well, you could have used that time to share your weak points, share your weaknesses. But there's also a balance of, I needed to take that time for myself. I needed to keep that private to go through that. But then on the other side, there's so much value in sharing those moments. So it's kind of really not feeling like you have to share or not share, but just doing what feels natural. And it looks like, we're kind of both doing that, which I love.
Exactly.
And the positive feedback. And I get DMs too of just like, oh, you helped me motivate to recover. I ate this food because of you. And it's just like,
I always get such a rush when you get those messages. So cute.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Also takes a lot of bravery for people to text you as well.
Oh,
and
yeah.
to be the ones to actually reach out, because we're not doing that the other way. Or well, it's when your audience reaches out to you, it's just the best feeling ever. And you get appreciated in that way.
Yeah, it's the best feeling ever. I had a crazy moment. I was actually in Amsterdam over the summer, and just in a random museum, and some girl like noticed me. And
that is sick. Yeah.
I was like across the world.
I don't even believe what's going on when that happens. It's surreal. Yeah.
So crazy, but a wonderful moment. It just shows like the world really isn't that big, and everyone's
exactly,
especially with this world of social media. And it was just such a cool moment. So to almost wrap up our episode, I wanted to ask one more question. What's your favorite part of living in Copenhagen? It's also on my bucket list to go there. I really
I know. I think this. I'm gonna go to New York again. That's for sure. I think it's actually a kind of a controversial answer, I'd say, because I'm living in Copenhagen and I'm super happy with it. Even though I may say that from my perspective, I've grown up here, I'm born and bred here. I've been here my entire life, apart from all the time that I've been traveling. I don't appreciate it as much as I should, which is maybe something that I should be working on to, be happy to live here, of course. But there are things that makes me happy about living here, though. And I'd say that my number one favorite thing about being here is actually when I meet people who don't live here and they remind me of how happy I should be to live here with all the opportunities we have. The city itself is just very, very well structured. We have lots of cool different neighborhoods, and of course, the run and coffee culture is pretty big here, and everyone getting into social runs and lots of nice bakeries. And even though it is really, really pricey, but you're used to that in New York, so it's fine. But I think it's a very nice city with a great atmosphere, and people are happy to be here. It's very easy to tell, and I think it's just very cute when tourists as well appreciate your city, and people come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm so lucky to live here," and yeah. So I need to not take that for granted when I'm like patiently waiting to fly out to the next country.
Yeah.
Just appreciate it a bit more and learn to love it a bit more, I guess. And be happy in my own base and not worrying about where I have to go next.
Right. I'm a culprit of that as well. Just always wanting the next thing and where's the next place I can go. And I lived in Boston before, and I definitely felt that I wasn't really appreciating the city of Boston because I knew I wanted to move to New York. I knew I wanted something different, but once I really started appreciating it and feeling happy there, I feel like I saw more of the city and I appreciated it for what it was. And then I moved to New York and I was like, okay, great. I've like closed my Boston chapter and started this new chapter. So, well, that's all the questions I have today. Thank you so much for coming.
It's been such a pleasure. Really, it has been.
I loved our conversation. It was wonderful.
We should do another one at some point.
Yeah. Oh, I would love that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. Maybe see you soon in Copenhagen. Who knows?
Absolutely. You got to let me know once you get here.
With that, I'll wrap up the episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks again for being here.